Good morning, Blitzers, and welcome back to another episode of the Buckeye Blitz. I'm your host, Chad Stryker. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. I appreciate it. It's been a little bit hectic trying to get back up and running. Definitely had some PC and uploading issues thanks to my PC, but we are back and we are good to go. And I'm excited to give you a little bit of a Q&A Tuesday, which I didn't get to do last week. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for coming back. This is a little bit of a pre-spring game show. I am looking forward to the spring game. If you haven't looked yet, the weather looks amazing. It looks like it's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun. It's always a fun event. I think I saw 80 degrees in Columbus, so that'll be fantastic for the spring game. So I hope to see you there. Tickets are on sale at Ticketmaster, or I think you can get them at Gate C the day of for $10, which is, I think it's $3 more than if you bought them online through Ticketmaster. So that means we are just 5 short days away from football in the Horseshoe. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. Hope to see you there. I'll be there with some friends and doing some live events on my Facebook page at _Buckeye Blitz podcast. And we'll be doing a few things around the stadium in the Huntington Club and just kind of taking a look at what's going on the day up. So also wanted to mention, so if you guys have watched the show for any length of time, you know I'm a very big supporter of Brian Schottenstein and Cardell Jones and the Foundation Ohio. They do have a spring fest coming up on April 20th. You can get tickets online. I think they start at $40. All proceeds go to Ohio State football and basketball. Now, let me say that this is no slight to other Olympic sports, including, the baseball and the swimming and all the other sports, but I think we all know what butters the bread at Ohio State when it comes to funding and finance. So this is good. All those proceeds go to NIL and helping maintain the NIL program at Ohio State, which I know there's been a lot made of the NIL and what's going on at Bama and Georgia and Texas A&M and some of these other schools. So if you can and you can help out and you can go, I think you can buy a whole table. If you buy a whole table, I think you're guaranteed to sit with a player. So that's pretty cool. And so if you are interested in that, take a look. I'll put the link for the Springfest in my comment section as well as in the video update section, and hopefully that'll help you find where you're going, and I'll also post it on my Facebook page. So if you haven't noticed, I'm dealing with spring allergies. I deal with them every year. It's annoying. I'm sorry. Let me apologize if I sound nasally. That's why. So I deal with this all day, every day until everything's done blooming, and then again in the fall once ragweed and all the fun hay stuff starts. So jumping into a few Q&A questions. One of the questions that I've seen this one on, maybe it was on Bucknuts, but this actually was something I was just discussing with a couple friends recently about Buckeyes, and I thought, wow, that's I'll just use it on my podcast. So will Brian Hartline call a more physical game plan since he played under Jim Tressel? So I think so, to a point. And this is the same thing I told my friends when we were talking about it. I think so, to a point. I think that they will have a more physical approach, but that's not just because of Brian Hartline. I think Hartline will have a few new wrinkles. I'm sure because of his time in the NFL, I'm sure he's going to have some suggestions, but you still have to remember this is Ryan Day's offense. And just like when Kevin Wilson was here, Kevin Wilson was running Ryan Day's offense with a few of his additions. So I think that'll be the same with Brian Hartline. I also think with this stable of running backs, provided everyone stays healthy, because we're breaking in a new quarterback and 3 new offensive linemen, the run game early in the season will absolutely be huge. We're going to have to be able to run the football, be successful running the football, and getting chunk plays running the football. So, from what I would say is I think that run blocking can be easier for some linemen, uh, especially if you're new at a position. So think about Josh Fryer has switched from right tackle to left tackle. Zen Mahalski has moved from backup left tackle to right tackle. Carson Hinsman was a guard and is now playing center. So a lot of moving pieces, and the two returning, you got Donovan Jackson returning, which will help. And so we have the two returning guards, and that's great. I have a guest, as you can see, that's Wrigley. He is a sheepadoodle. Um, so much as I'd like to say, um, I think it'll be more physical because I do think it will be. I don't think it's going to be excessively more physical. Um, as I've said many times too, I don't think you're going to see like the stretch runs like you saw when Kevin Wilson was here because Coach Fry likes to do more of the gap blocking, pulling guards, pulling centers, downhill. So I think you'll see more counters and, downhill type running, which would lead into your question. I do believe that you'll see some more downhill smash mouth football type runs from Ohio State, but this team is built with elite skill position players in the backfield and on the outside at wide receiver, and now even at tight end, with Cade Stover and Jelani Thurman and Joe Royer. I think that you're going to see a little bit more downhill, a little bit more smash mouth, especially early in the season to help, everybody settle into their roles, McCord and Fryer and Carson Hinsman and whoever wins that right tackle job. And as much as I love Tress and as much as I think the questions around will we get a throwback to Trestle Ball? No, no. Those were some nail biters. If you lived through it, I lived through the John Cooper era. I lived through the end of the Earl Bruce era, and I remember living through Trestle Ball, and it was definitely intense. And so in today's spread offense in college football, I don't think you can ask your defense to hold opposing opponents under, 20 points per game. Maybe 2/3 of the schedule you could do that, but definitely not in the playoff. And if you want to win the Big Ten, fine. If you want to be Michigan, that's what Michigan does. They're built to win the Big Ten, but they're not going to compete for a national championship with the way they run their offense. So I do think that you have to score in bunches, and put up. I'd like to see them average over 31 a game. That would be my goal for the year. Um, so with that said, I hope that I enjoyed kind of talking about this and with some of my friends, and I think that I thought I would use it on the podcast. I hope that was enjoyable for you, and maybe some of you that had the same question. So this one came in over the last weekend, and I wasn't able to get to it. So I actually have a pile of questions that came in on the website. So I'm going to get through a couple today, and I'll tackle a couple on Friday as like a pre-spring game that are tied to the spring game, and talk about those. But what do I make of OSU's defensive recruiting? So thanks for the question. I think there's a couple things here, and there's a little bit to unpack, and I hope I answer the question. This is kind of vague, so so I was trying to think if there's been anyone on the defensive staff that's been there more than 3 years, and the only person I could come up with was Larry Johnson. So with that being the case, I think you have a new scheme, you have a new philosophy, with the exception of maybe Larry Johnson. I was trying to figure out if there's been, some other position coach, but I couldn't. I don't think there is. So I think maybe this is the first time since 2020, the class of 2020, that they've had the same defensive coaching staff and assistant coaching and scheme since they enrolled. Because if you remember, we had Coach Combs, and then during the second year of Coach Combs, Matt Barnes, I think, was calling the plays at the last half of the year. So kind of interesting to say that about Ohio State, but it's really true. I will say that it's going to take some time to build that recruiting base back up to get kids excited about playing defense at Ohio State again. We were, for a long time we were linebacker U, and then we were DBU, and we were BIA and defensive. And then we have the defensive line success with the Bosa's and Chase Young, and now, you know, beyond Larry Johnson, I think we're rebuilding, and with with that 5-2 defense, only playing two linebackers, there's only so many spots there. So, with the exception of the GOAT Larry Johnson, being the GOAT, recruits want to see the product on the field. They want to see you produce, and if you want them to come to your university, you're going to have to win and play well and put folks in the league. So with that said, we are in line for some major defensive backs: Bryce West, Aaron Scott, Miles Lockhart, and then linebacker Peyton Pierce, safety Reggie Powers, and they're in on Booker Pickett. His dad or uncle, sorry, Ryan Pickett, played at OSU. His dad played at Miami. So they're in on a lot of top-notch 4- and 5-star players. I do think that this is the changing of the guard. And if you haven't got a chance to take a look at Steve Wiltfong's article, the Buckeyes are trending in an upward manner for a lot of top-tier defensive talent. And then Aaron Scott and Bryce West being from Ohio helps a lot too. So I think that, we're on the up and up. We got some really good young defensive players in this class, and that 2024 class is looking really, really good, especially with Jeremiah Smith out front and Aaron Nolan helping to recruit some of those folks in the South. And so I've said this repeatedly about this change. Give it time. This is Ohio State. They're going to turn it around. I see a championship team on the field. Coach Knowles, basically said last year they were just trying to install the defensive philosophy and the defensive scheme. And this year they're about making plays. So I do think that you're going to see a change this year. I think it's going to be successful. I think they're going to have a lot of you're going to see more of that BIA and the defensive linemen wreaking havoc. This is the third year for J.T. Tuimoloau. Third year for Jack Sawyer. So this is the year where second year for Mike Hall, third year I think for Tyquan Lewis. This is the year where I think they make those jumps, that big jump. And from everything I've heard about practice, and I know we're breaking in new offensive linemen, the defensive line is owning the offensive line. So good news, good things. It's coming. Give it time. Be patient. So the last one was about the spring game, and I thought this would be a precursor to Friday. What am I most looking forward to at the spring game? Thank you for the question. I know that they actually included in that I've talked about it a lot, and it's because I really enjoy it. Now I realize the spring game is not, a real game, but it's spring football, and in Ohio we don't get spring football, so I enjoy going to the game. I enjoy getting into the horseshoe. I enjoy the fact that it's relaxing, and I get to see a lot of the players that you wouldn't normally see on a regular game day, especially, when you have a travel roster. If you go to an away game, like if you go to Rutgers or something, or Maryland, you don't get to see everybody. So, to answer your question, that's part of it. I like to get to see everyone. Honestly, I want to get a good look at the offensive line and the depth or lack thereof. That's probably something I'm going to be paying the most attention to, is how the offensive line plays, how Carson Hinsman snaps the football is another one. And that's kind of, I'm looking at left tackle. I'll be looking at center. I'm not going to be paying too close of attention to right tackle, other than who gets the most snaps. So is it Tegra Shabola or Zen Mahalski? And be curious about that, because Mahalski's been a little dinged up, so I'm curious. I want to see if the defensive line is as dominating as I've heard, and from what I've seen in some of the clips and the practice videos and scrimmage videos that I've been able to see, they look like a completely different unit. They look like they're ready. I want to see it live. And I want to see, and I'm very curious to see Jack Sawyer's get off now that he's back in at the defensive end position, because I still think he could slide inside on some plays and play next to Mike Hall and let Kenyatta Jackson and JTT play on the outside and put Jack Sawyer and Mike Hall on the inside. And I think that would be a really so a Jack Sawyer on the inside, I think that could be, like I said, a Rushman type package that would be really cool to see. I'm curious to see if Caleb Brown is returning punts. I've heard a lot about that this spring. I'd be interested to see if Carnell Tate is as advertised, because so far from everything I've seen and heard, he looks like the real deal. I want to see Dallin Hayden up close because he from what I have read and seen, he's put on about 10 pounds. He looks lean and mean, and that's exciting. And obviously, I want to see Kyle McCord and his pocket presence in a suited game atmosphere at the Horseshoe. Same for Devin Brown. So more on Friday about that. I'll break down the position groups I'm looking at and the things I'm looking forward to seeing. Sorry about the dogs barking. They do that from time to time. That's going to do it for me today. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to grab a few of those questions for Friday. We'll do a little bit of recruiting news too if anything breaks between now and then. Until Friday, have a great day, great week. See ya. Go Bucks.